So I've always thought, like, who's really indigenous to this bitch and who not indigenous to this bitch, right? And I know what they taught us in school about who's indigenous and who got here in recent history on the bottom of boats, stuffed in there like tuna fish, canned fish. But the main thing for me is, aside from the education and the programming I've got, just like everybody else in this country, elementary school, middle school, high school, some college, getting taught about Africa and slavery and what happened in U.S. history, I always think about this one thing: population. Population, right? Native Americans, what they tell us, Native Americans have been in the United States for 30,000, hella thousands of years, came down from the Bering Strait or whatever, and they populated all of the United States, North America, top to bottom, east to west, right? Up until about 400 years ago, where white people and Spaniards and Europeans just came over and successfully wiped them off the map, or almost off the map, took these niggas to the brink, all within what, 400 years? With no modern weaponry, no motor engines, no airplanes, no boats, just successfully just wiped through all North America and took them motherfuckers out. They are still on the endangered species list in 2024. You don't never see Native Americans outside. You don't see them on TV. You don't see them nowhere unless you live out west or you live within like 10 miles of a reservation. But again, do you know who you see outside? Everywhere you go? You know why? It's because we're from here. I know. We were taught. I told you I know, but think about it. Let's use our thinking cap. Dump the bullshit you learned in school and use your thinking cap. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. Black Americans, right? We got here, 400 years ago? Mm-hmm. Right? 1519, I think it was. On the bottom of boats. Right? Mm-hmm. We got here 400 years ago, but there's never been a shortage of Black Americans in North America or the United States, ever. There's never been a shortage of us. We're everywhere you go. We are everywhere. We're literally the face of the United States of America. But we'll talk about it later. There's never been a shortage of us, ever. And you know what's funny? When is the last time Native Americans were getting massacred or murdered and brutalized or incarcerated at a very high rate in the United States of America? When was the last massacre of the Native Americans? Probably like the turn of the 20th century, maybe, right? But nobody's really been touching them. They've been in the cut. Nobody's been locking them niggas up, shooting them niggas down. Nobody's been really bothering them, but their population still hasn't came back. Why is that? Whereas Black Americans, we've been getting murdered, incarcerated at the highest rates this country has ever seen in the history of this country. Shit, we're killing ourselves because of black on black violence. The white man and the government been stringing us up in trees, locking our asses up at the highest of the high rates. For our whole stay in the United States of America, per history, the last 400 years, Black Americans have been getting that shit. Slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, fire bombings, massacres. Shit, sundown towns still exist. And our population has never dwindled. It's never gotten low. We've never been endangered. And you know why? It's because we're from here. Oh, surprise. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're all not from Africa. Some of us, we've been here for a long time, despite what they taught you in school. Black Americans have a high population because of the breeding camps and the breeding farms and slavery, and they got bred like animals, and the population went, it's because We got brought over by the hundreds of thousands to the United States, and the 12 million on the bottom of the slave ships packed like sardines on the slave ships on the water for months at a time, and just got up off the ship and was working in the plantation. And no. No. You know why our numbers have never dwindled? Despite being killed and incarcerated the most of any people in Western history, in American history, it's because we're from here. We're indigenous to here. That's why. Indigenous people, I feel like you don't run out of those. They just repopulate quickly because they've always been here. We weren't no small little tribe that we populated this bitch. And I know what history tells us, bruh. And yes, I'm telling you, the history's a lie. The government's a lie. School system, they've lied to us. They've lied. And let me, they're like, no, there's so much proof and evidence. Why would they lie to us? No reason. Why else does the U.S. government ever lie? Money, land, and power. That's it. Simple. Just like that. Money, land, power, resources. That's it. But let me give you an example. Guess what we've been taught in school by the United States of America? We got taught that Jesus Christ was white. European. White as shit. White as shit in the Middle East. Whole time, guess what he was not? White. Guess, you know what's funny? If you remember this, the early 90s kids and the Gen Zers and the millennials, guess what we were taught in school? That Egyptians were white. Blue-eyed, white people with the pharaoh cap in the school books, in the textbooks. Do you know the shell shock I went through when I found out what real Egyptians look like? That they weren't white, blue-eyed people? But in the school books, in America, Egyptians were white. Them people are dark. So you think America and the government, they, whatever the fuck, history, they draw the line at telling you Jesus was white and telling you that Egyptians were white? You don't think they would tell you that the indigenous people of America are Africans from Africa? You don't think they would tell you the indigenous people of America are people with straight black hair and tan skin? You don't think they would tell you that? You don't think they would lie to you about your identity and who you are and where you come from. But they taught you in school that Jesus was white and that Egyptians were white. In school. In our school systems. I know it's a lot to take in. I know I sound dumb.
You do.
But just take that shit you learned in school, put it in your back pocket, and think.
I'm thinking.
Put stuff together. Look at things. Think
together.
about things. You know what I'm saying?
I'll answer you. Here's my take, right? And I've emptied my mind and I've kept it clear. If you're truly indigenous to the Americas, then what is your culture? What is your native language? What is your food? What do you guys eat? What is your history? What did you create in the Americas that can symbolize today that you guys built this? If you're truly indigenous to the Americas, what is it that makes you indigenous to the land? Because in every community, in every culture, there's a civilization prior to colonization. So what's your civilization like? Of Black Americans who are indigenous to America. That's all I really want to know. That's really what I care about knowing. When I look at you, I see a man who's confused. And it's very common to be confused as a Black American because you're not indigenous to Africa, because you don't want to claim it, because where do you even claim? Right? So that part I understand. But you can't erase people who literally have a history before colonization. Queer people, Kam people, we are still endangered species in Africa. Zulu people, they are still indigenous, and they're still endangered species because there's just this obsession with getting rid of them.
African Americans are going through an identity crisis right now, and there's a lot of misinformation on the internet about who we truly are. Let's talk about it, shall we? My name is Brother Legend, and I'm here to raise your consciousness. In all my years in the black community, I have never been to a cookout where somebody was making a teepee in a campfire. And yet, for some reason, in the past 4 years, I have seen more and more black people in America say that they are native, indigenous, or aboriginal to America. And they use two justifications for this. One is that black people were here before Columbus, which really makes no sense to me because even when they get their DNA results back, it'll say you have a little bit of Native American in them, but I have not seen one person black as me or blacker show their DNA results, and it says that they are 100% Native American. I mean, the whole reason you're saying you're not African is because you're saying that you didn't come here through the transatlantic slave trade. How do you have African DNA? The second thing that doesn't make sense to me that I hear pretty often is when they say that you've never seen a slave ships don't exist. And my question to that is, how do you think white people got here? Can anyone find the Mayflower or the Santeria? Like, how far are we willing to go into denying our own history just to avoid acknowledging our painful past? Are we going to deny other people's history too? Oh, but they don't want us to know who we truly are. That's why they keep it hidden. Then why is it that every pretendian is alive and well? But the scholars that taught us we were African are the ones that got unalive or silenced by the U.S. government. Make it make sense.
You need to acknowledge your past in order to move forward. If you don't acknowledge your past, then you don't move forward. That's the main important thing. There's nothing wrong with claiming to be from America. You are from America. You were raised and born there. It is your home. However, it does not take away from the fact of where you were brought from. Okay? You're not indigenous to America. There's a lot of things that needs sense to make it you from that area. I'm not even making sense, but I'm trying to make sense. Okay? There's civilization. Okay? The civilization that existed before colonization, and that's something that we have in Africa because it shows that we are here. White people don't have it. They don't have it because they're not indigenous. They don't have anything that symbolizes their indigenousness. But in every community of black people, you'd find culture, history, civilization, a way of life, a language. And even if the language is not the same, and it has molded in the modern culture, you would also find it there. A symbol or something. You'd hear like Sesotho, there's like Kasital in South Africa, like they have Kasital, and then in Nigeria they have their English sort of like Gabrish English, I don't know, Pidgin English, I don't understand. But they have something like that. They take and then they make it their own. Do you understand? That's what the indigenous people do. And it's not like we are not indigenous. We are not in danger. We are the most endangered species. Because even today, they're making plans on how to just get rid of us because our population is growing more and more and more every single day. So, see? They'll never understand you being indigenous to the Americas. Sincerely.